All right, gang, this is Hexy. Let's go back to the East Front here. This is a wrap on this game right here. Korsun from SPI 1979 from the Army Group South. Was it 4 battles of Army Group South? So it was a quad box. Love this thing. I remember, like I said, I bought this game. Yeah, I bought this game when I was in basic training on our first little, actually weekend. Well, no, it wasn't our first one because it was towards the end of our basic training. I went down to the museum with a buddy of mine, and they actually sold the game in there, and that's where I bought it. So I remember playing it on my little wall locker stand in the barracks on the weekend. Me and another guy, Petrovich was his name. Fitting, right? So, wow. The point differential in this game, I'm not going to lie to you, this changed in one turn. One turn? 2 turns. No, in one turn, it changed from a German strategic victory, which is the highest the Germans can get, to a Russian strategic victory, was at completely the other end of the chart. All right? How'd that happen? Okay, well, first off, let's talk about how Russian units move and attack. Now, they can always move, okay? But they can only attack depending on how many headquarters are activated. Units within the range of that headquarters, and then after those are the units that can be activated, and you can only have so many headquarters activated on certain game turns. As a matter of fact, for like turns 7 through 9 or 10 or something like that, they can only activate 1. All right. Then after turn 5, whatever the leadership rating is on the headquarters, i.e., like this guy right here, let's say he's active. All right. He's got 6. They can only conduct 6 attacks. All right. Now that's attacks. It's not 6 units attacking. That's 6 total attacks. So that, to me, I found that really didn't, because you never got more than 3 or 4 anyhow going on. If you got 6, that was lucky. So I will say that the second tank army headquarters, he stayed active every turn of the game. Okay. And I do mean every turn of the game. 5th Guards tank over here where'd he go? I've moved him. No, he did a lot for any of the turns where they had at least 2. And then the third one was this guy up in here. That was like when they had 3. I never had activated any of the other headquarters. So your units can move. They're not going to do any overrun. They're not going to get combat support for attacking. And they can't do any mechanized movement. There's no supply for them to do mechanized movement. Didn't need it. Didn't really need it. All they were was to keep Germans keep them honest in areas where the offensive wasn't going on. Okay? And let me tell you something. That was tough because much like I guess the Russian plan was, we drove in from up in here, okay? And we drove in originally from here along this river line, but then I started to focus back down here coming through this area. Never did get the giant push down in here, although probably would now if there was any more to do, but did push out quite a bit here. Once this happened and this was starting to break open, which took a while to break this mess open in here, German reinforcements, some nice reinforcements even came on in this area here and shot up. They didn't last long though. There were just too many Russian units within a headquarters that had a 6 rating. Okay, eventually the German units up here along the border, along the Dnieper River, they had to pull back or they were going to get lost. As you can see, look at them. They're all out of supply. All of this German stuff is out of supply. Like I say, you determine that at the start of the movement phase and at the moment of combat. So, and they can't trace through zones of control unless there's a friendly unit in it. So really, the only German units that are in supply are these 4 over here, and then the 2 that are left on this side of the map. And they've got no more units to sort of move in there. Like this guy's providing a supply line for that dude there coming out and then this way. Okay, so like I say, you can't trace a line of supply through an enemy zone of control or an enemy unit. You can through an enemy zone of control if you have a friendly unit in the hex, okay? So these guys here, they're doomed. Look at the size. These are core units. Now, what I did learn about this, and I didn't realize it, because I like to look at the victory conditions to see what I need to do, and I realized this one right away was destruction, okay, of units. So in reality, the score could be even more because these guys ending the game, they're going to be isolated because they can't trace to 3 hexes to a friendly unit that's in supply. All right, even though, so they would be like if there was, say, a German unit sitting, like say he was in supply, and this was all broken out, they couldn't trace him, so they would be isolated. That's going to be even more points. So it would be even bigger margin of victory. So what I did learn is that was keeping it close for a while was these large German units that have 4 steps. Don't get them wounded. Don't get them beat up, because those are major. You lose one of those, which the Russians lost 2 complete. That's 12 points a pop for each one of those. And the Germans only got 27 victory points in this game. So, all right, simple system. Air comes in when there's not mud turns each side. I mean, there's not snow turns. Each side gets three airstrike points. The Germans can use theirs for reinforcement, which they can use it also for air supply, where they can drop one into a town, and then units that can trace to that town. You don't destroy the air units. I mean, the Russians can't do anything about them. But if they can trace to that town, they come back into supply. But then you got to put one of these heavy construction markers on them, which I never had to use any, because I did my best to try to keep the German units where they were in supply until this happened here. And the air units have to be dropped in a town hex. So there's really not many options right here. I could probably save this guy, but there's nothing up in here. I could save this guy here, drop an air unit here in this town right here for supply. But and then of course the Russians, they just use theirs to add 1 shift on the combat table. So as this thing started to build, and as the German units started to get weaker, I started to get those 7-1, 8-1, 9-1, 10-1 attacks, which on your chart there. And then when you got these guys so that they can't, so they can't move, they can't retreat because the zones of control, then they start taking step losses. All right. So Korsun pocket from the Army Group South Quad box. This was fun. This game has always been fun. I can still remember it from back in the 80s. All right, how fun the thing was. Easy to play, light map. All right, or a small map, small footprint. Not an overbearing number of counters. 6-sided dice is all you need. Not very many markers. You have disrupted and out of supply markers, and then you have the heavy equipment markers, which look like entrenchments to me. See, those things up there are like entrenchments. All right, and they have a number 1 and a number 2 side. Like I say, never had to employ one. Like I say, if I were to drop an air and supply that guy, he would have to put one of those in the state level 2 underneath him, and then this guy over here would have to do the same thing. And then you get more victory points if you have something like that. You don't want those underneath these units. I mean, I guess if you got to get them supplied, then you need to go down that road. But never had to use it. Never got to that rule. Probably would, like I say, if this thing was to continue on, but it's not. So yeah, there's a wrap. If you got it, dig it out. It's worth playing, okay? Because it's like you could literally sit down in one evening, set up one of these battles, and go to it, and probably get it done in a couple hours if you just grind it out. Because you're not gonna fight with everything on the map. Maybe in the early stages, the Germans, because they can always do everything. But with the Russians, as the game goes on, it gets less and less until like maybe the last turn or two, they get a couple more activations. So, all right, it's a wrap. Russian victory. The Korsun pocket. The Dnieper's been cleared. The pocket's been cut in half, and these Germans are probably going to capitulate. See y'all later.